Welcome to another episode of A Fistful of Lenses. This episode is part of a series of videos that goes right back to my roots, back to my first love of film photography. Naturally, during these episodes, we take a look at some of the cameras that were available back in the day. We look at their functions and features, and even a few fixes along the way. So if analog photography is something that interests you, if the goings on of the darkroom intrigue you, and if camera history fascinates you, then sit back, grab a beverage of your choice, and enjoy the journey. At the heart of this episode is the Canon AL1 camera. This was the last of the A-series cameras that Canon ever produced. Following this, they moved on to the T-series, which included the excellent Canon T90. And then they moved on to the EOS system. So this is an old camera, but I feel this is a camera that deserves its place in history. It deserves a little love. The camera came to market in 1982. So what was the world like in 1982? Well, let's take this episode's trip together down memory lane. In 1982, there were long queues outside the cinema to watch the movie E.T. And in the stores, the most sought after toy was the Cabbage Patch Kids. In music, Renee and Renata had a #1 hit with Save Your Love. Also to make the news in 1982 was a great aunt of mine, a remarkable woman who had no less than 5 legs. When interviewed, she said, yes, as a negative, people would stop and stare. But as a positive, her underwear fitted her like a glove. Anyway, that was the world in 1982, when the Canon AL1 was new to buy in the shops. So this is quite an old camera. Why are we looking at this particular model? Well, a couple of reasons. Firstly, this is a camera that I picked up for less than £15. And that was including postage. And that's not unusual for this model of camera. The problem is they have a common flaw, and that is a weak battery door hinge. This is an electronically controlled camera, and without battery power, it's essentially just a pretty paperweight. Nice to look at on the shelf, but pretty useless. But there's a simple fix for this. So I was hoping that's all that's wrong with the camera. I can show you the fix and then show you the results. That's the plan. So what's my motivation for doing this? Well, I'm hoping it'll help others get into film photography as cheaply as possible. But firstly, let's take a look at the features of this old classic. The camera has 7 selectable shutter speeds, ranging from 1/15th of a second through to 1/1000th. It has the usual bulb and self-timer modes. It also has an auto exposure mode. And the camera features something just a little bit different. Canon called this feature quick focus, a kind of predecessor to autofocus. Basically, it's a focus assist light. The camera doesn't autofocus. It uses Canon FL and FD mount lenses, many of which have been produced over the years. And for this review, I'll be using the Canon FL 58mm f1.2 lens and the Canon FL 135mm f2.5 lens. Both those lenses I've tested on the channel in the past, but they were with digital cameras. Now I'm going to test it on a film camera, as they were intended. The film I'll be using is Ilford FP4 Plus, and I'll be using the stand developing technique. But first, let's show you that battery door fix. So first you'll need to remove the small screw at the base of the battery compartment. You'll need to replace this screw with one about 2mm longer, at least I did. For this fix, I'm using one of those hinges that you find on the back of a cheap picture frame. You could use something else, but I wanted to use something that I had at hand. Put the new screw in with the hinge, and then check that the camera powers up. Of course, there could be other issues with the camera, but let's be positive and give it a try. For this roll of film, I'll be using the stand developing technique. One of the benefits of stand developing is that you can shoot the roll of film at variable ISOs. But it's a nice day here in Waterfall Country in the Brecon Beacons National Park, so I'll start by shooting the film as recommended at ISO 125. As a side note, if you haven't been to the Waterfall Country in the National Park, I'd recommend you visit. It's an area of outstanding natural beauty. But all this walking and water is making me thirsty. Let's head to the local for some refreshments. And let's try shooting the film indoors at ISO 800. But first, one more shot of the waterfalls. And one last look before heading on with our journey. Now let's try shooting at ISO 800 and let's see how well variable ISO works with stand developing. I've never attempted shooting a single roll of film at varying ISOs before, so this is all new to me. Also, stand developing is not something that I've ever tried before, so I'm interested to see how this all works out. So let's head back outdoors and shoot the rest of the roll at ISO 125. And let's talk a little more about my impressions of using the Canon AL1 camera. To my eye, the styling is from an era when SLR cameras looked their best. Maybe it's because the camera comes from a time when I first was getting interested in photography, and that's left some sort of impression on my psyche. Whatever the reason for liking the camera, the whole experience has been enjoyable, and it was refreshing to get back to shooting film. So I hope you enjoyed that journey from broken camera to final print, and hopefully it'll inspire you to get out there in the real world and snap away happily with a fistful of lenses. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and ring that bell, and then who knows, maybe we'll see each other out there in the real world, snapping away happily with a fistful of lenses. Until next time, bye for now.